So it's 5:34 and I'm calling this meeting to order. First, a reminder that meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the Select Board so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are, at the conclusion of a Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair, to the Select Board as a whole, and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. Please silence all cell phones, and a reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. So are there any adjustments to the order of the agenda?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay. We did note that we were supposed to put the Pierce's Hall final appropriation ARPA vote on the agenda for this week. It didn't make it on this week, so we will promise that we put that on in 2 weeks.
Could I also ask about another item I expected, the ball field purchase? Is that on the list somewhere?
No, because I haven't talked to Larry yet.
Okay.
We've already, that's a
done deal, I thought.
That's a done deal, right? So we don't have
I
to.
expected to see it in the warrant, but it's not.
Oh, in the warrant, I see.
Ah,
Okay.
yeah, no.
Okay, so the next thing is to approve the minutes of March 20th and March 27th, 2024. I believe we were all here. Can I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of March 20th, 24 and March 27th, 2024. Are there any changes?
Where do you see them? Where do you see them in this packet?
Mine
They were in my, when
are
I
behind
printed
the,
from home.
mine are behind the warrants.
Oh, behind the ones, okay. Got it.
There they are.
Thank you.
Any changes?
None for me.
No. You good, Fletcher?
It's fine.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next up is warrants to the treasurer. Can I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review. Karen?
Payroll warrant dated April 5th, 2024, in the amount of $23,886.45. There's some overtime in here for the highway department, for the storm. And,
Oh yeah, we had a storm.
yeah,
Okay.
I think it was like 20, no, it was more than 28 hours. It was quite a few hours.
Okay. Any questions on the payroll? Moving on to accounts payable.
Accounts payable dated March 23rd through April 5th, 2024, in the amount of $116,838.10. US Bank, there's interest payments for water, sewer, and gravel pit bond payments, loans. You're gonna see names in here too. There's credits that were hanging out there, so we issued checks. And what else is there? Some weird stuff.
Haven House?
Haven House is our grant writer. They're working
Okay.
on the grant for the renovation of Town Hall. Simon's Operations is our monthly contract for water and sewer, but they also had some extra expenses for Landmark College. Some pipes had broken over there and had to stop pumps. We fixed one set of pipes and then like 2 weeks later the other side went. So it was just bizarre.
Okay.
Pete's Tire Barn is $2,842.72. That is for 2 brand new tires for engine number 2. You should see in here too, Auto Mall, all the trucks, the fire department, equipment fleet are all inspected, every single piece of equipment, and back at the station.
Any other questions about the accounts payable? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to public comments on items not on the agenda. Is there anything on the select board? Anybody on the select board have anything to say? Are there public comments in the room? Are there public comments online? Swift?
Hi, thank you. I wanted to read the Equity Inclusion Advisory Committee statement for Arab American Heritage Month for April.
Okay, go ahead.
April is National Arab American Heritage Month. The Center for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, which is a U.S. Department of Health and Human Services subdivision, has designated 2024 theme for National Arab American Heritage Month as celebrating Arab American communities' rich heritage and numerous contributions to society. The theme recognizes the contributions of Arab Americans to our community. The annual initiative started in 2017 in various states, and in 2021 was the first year April received federal recognition by the Office of the President of the United States. Since the 1980s, the numbers of Vermonters who claim an Arab ancestry has more than doubled and continues to grow. The largest number of new Arabs to Vermont emigrated from Lebanon, Somalia, Iraq, and Sudan. But the presence of Arab Americans in Vermont goes back much further than the 1980s. Vermont has seen immigration of Arabs since the late 1800s and discovered through inscriptions on tombstones throughout the state. It's difficult to measure the migration of Arabs to Vermont during the 19th and 20th centuries, since many families changed their names when they arrived in the U.S. to hide where they came from, to avoid discrimination, and other reasons. This month is an invitation to learn more about the contributions of Arab Americans and to the arts and sciences, recognize the history of discrimination of Arabs in the U.S., and learn what you can do to create a community that is welcome to all on a local level. And I have some sources that I'll share that'll be in the minutes. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other public comments online? Any in the room? Going once, going twice. Moving on to the town manager's report.
I didn't really have time to put a report together. I've been kind of putting out some fires here and there. So I just want to update the emergency management director, health officer, and the District 13 ambulance have been posted on the website and on Facebook. Actually got some interest, I just talked to somebody today about the EMD.
Okay.
There's a letter in the packet too for ambulance, letter of interest. So a question would be to the board is, how long do you want to put it out there? A week, 2 weeks? I mean, we just got them up last week.
It was literally last week.
Yeah, don't ask me what day, but, because
I'm holding you to it.
yeah.
I don't remember what our appointment policy says, yes or no, it's here. Do we have an obligation to wait?
So the emergency management director, I want to remind the select board that the local emergency management plan will be due in April. So, given what's going on right now, that should be a priority.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it is in the process right now.
Okay. What is the district ambulance? What is that?
I don't have that with me, sorry folks.
Yeah.
Can somebody pull it up on the website? I think Heather might have it actually.
Heather, what is the ambulance, the team ambulance?
So the District 13 area is made up of towns from Brattleboro, Vernon, Dummerston, Putney, rescuing. I think it extends a little bit further, but I'm not 100% sure. And it's sort of just a group of people who sit down and collaborate on how the district money is spent, like when ARPA money comes down, things like that. It helps to decide education. And educating tools, things like
Education
that.
for the members?
This is for, excuse me, any EMS department within that district.
Okay. I didn't know we had an ambulance district, so this is the first I've heard of it. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it was interesting because I went looking for information to try to educate myself about
Yeah.
what the ambulance district was and what this position is. And I found out what the district is, but I didn't find out. It was really unclear to me. You know, the best I could come up with was let me just see it. Give me just 1 second, I wrote it down here. So is this a representative to the district board?
I don't know if I call it a board.
Because on I'm trying to figure out what it is because it says the district board is comprised of representatives from the district ambulance and first responder agencies.
Well, districts are usually a legal entity, right? So, I do have a hand up.
Somebody might
Zach,
have an answer.
do you have an answer?
I have a little bit of clarity, yeah.
Okay.
So the Vermont EMS system is separated into 13 districts, and the way that Vermont EMS governs each district is that there's a board within the coverage area. So District 13 is our coverage area, and each town in that coverage area gets a say in regards to things like training and interagency coordination. And so some districts, the board is more active than others. In this district, in District 13, there's actually a fair amount that goes on because there is an ambulance service that covers most of the towns in the district. So it's an opportunity for the town to work closely with the ambulance service and make sure that emergency care happens the way everybody in the district wants it to happen. And also in accordance with Vermont EMS statutes.
Okay, all right.
Great, thank you.
Zach, can I ask, so what it said online, that this is a representative to that district board, is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, I don't know what you have,
Okay,
like, I haven't been following, but yes, if you guys have a vacancy for that board, then that's what you're appointing. You're appointing somebody from your town to represent your town at the district level.
okay.
Right.
Okay.
And it said that, what it says is that they are representatives from the district's ambulance and first responder agencies.
Correct. So that's why Rescue Inc. is a part of that, because we're the ambulance service for District 13. And then all of the towns that are in the district have a person on that board. And then the other person that we haven't talked about is the medical director. So the medical director is the physician that's also responsible for every every call that happens in every town in the district.
Okay,
Does
so,
that answer your
yeah,
question?
that makes sense to me. So that, I think I hear you saying that there are representatives from the agencies and representatives from the towns. Those are two different things.
I don't actually believe that's usually, I actually can't speak to that. I'm not a part of the board myself, but from what I understand, it was a member of the department. But I guess it could be, I don't know. I can't answer that part of the question.
Okay. Just the only reason I'm asking is because if we need a representative from our ambulance and first responder agency, then then that becomes one of the requirements of who we choose for that position, as opposed to just, it can't be anybody. It's supposed to be a representative of the ambulance and first responder agency.
I guess that's a good question. I mean, my instinct is that generally when the state puts up districts, they don't limit it to certain requirements, especially if they're asking for appointments. But I mean, that could be a criteria. Yeah. Yeah.
So, because I was just trying to understand.
All right.
What it is.
Well, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves too. I guess the question was, would we want to wait on appointments?
Right.
But let's talk about that specific, because we do have one letter of interest for the EMS District 13 position. So let's wait on specific questions on that until we get there.
Okay.
As far as waiting to get more letters of interest, I feel like, did we put a deadline on it?
You did not.
Okay.
That's what
I mean, normally, as long as somebody's qualified, we don't necessarily need to have a whole bunch of people, lining up. Presumably, if it's popular, they're all gonna scramble to get their letters in on time, right?
Well, in theory, right?
Right? So I guess I'm not too worried about that, as long as we feel that that person is qualified,
All right.
whoever ends up stepping up.
Can I see the policy?
Yeah. I didn't see anything specific about time frame.
Yeah.
It's under policies, which is like midway through that
Okay.
book. Okay, so that was, so we got, did we get past that issue so far? Okay. Are you done with your report, or?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. Like I said, I didn't have much, because I didn't have much time to create anything.
All right, are there comments on the town manager's report, or is there anything on the board first? Are there comments in the room, Jeanette?
I was just gonna say one thing about the district is that the way they're organized is around hospital catchment areas. So we're around the Brattleboro hospital catchment area. And there is some legislation right now that has just passed the House and is in the Senate that is making some changes to the district governance, and I'm not sure if it would impact here, so it might be wise to wait a little bit and see what the legislation comes out as. I don't know. I know that it's making
specific to representation? Specific to representation?
I don't know. I know it's making some changes at the advisory committee level, which is a representative from each of the 13 districts, and whether it's making changes to the district boards, I don't know.
Okay. Are there comments online about the town manager's report? Okay, moving on to boards, committees, and commissions. We don't have anything under that. So the next thing is the liquor, we can become the liquor, do we have the liquor?
It should be in your packet.
Okay, so we're gonna become the liquor commissioners, and that's John Johnson.
Is there a list in there?
Hi, thank you. So in your packet is a summary sheet of these are all renewals of existing liquor permits in the town of Putney. We have 2 second-class applicants. That would be the the Putney Co-op and the Putney General Store. That allows the retail sale of beer and wine for off-premises consumption. And then we have 3 first and third class licenses, each with an outdoor consumption permit. That's Farm and Fork, which is the Gleanery, Next Stage Arts Project, and the Putney Mountain Winery. First class allows serving of beer and wine for on-premises consumption. Third class allows serving full bar for on-premises consumption. And then each of these licensees has an outdoor consumption permit to allow outdoor consumption in a defined area. All of these are renewals. The town fees have been paid. If you've been around for a while, you may recall that in the old days we did all of this on paper, and it would come and I'd give you paper and you would sign. The Department of Liquor and Lottery has switched to an online licensing portal. So what I'm asking for you is, assuming these are approved, to give me permission to log into the online portal and hit approve, indicating that you have, the local liquor control board has approved each of these renewals. I'm not aware of any reported problems for any of these licensees, and the town and water sewer accounts are substantially current for each one of these premises also.
Okay. Any comments on the board about the slate of liquor license applicants? Are there any comments in the room about any of these? Any comments online? Okay, then can I hear a motion to approve the slate of liquor license applicants and to approve John Johnson's approval power?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the slate of liquor license applicants and to approve John Johnson's approval power. It's my best motion yet. Any other discussion among the board? Any comments online? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll have one more because I'm still waiting for the Mockingbird to come in.
Okay.
And so we'll do that one in 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, Mockingbird. I'll have better language for how to approve signatories online. There's got to be language.
Right.
Somebody's made it up.
You did fine.
Thanks. All right, so moving on to Select Board new business. The first one is the Municipal Technical Assistance Program funding for project manager.
Which is Sue and
Where
Gretchen.
is that?
There's no information.
There's no
on
information.
it.
Okay.
Right here.
Oh, hi.
Hi there.
You have the information.
I always have paper
Yes.
for you, but you were going to say this is the shortest thing I've ever given you.
Oh, it is. Indeed it is.
There's always next time.
It's to make your motion making a lot easier.
Thank you.
That was the intent here.
Thank you.
Gretchen, if you don't mind, I'll just do a brief introduction for you and turn it over to you. I'm back here again on the Municipal Technical Assistance Program request from the town of Putney. You may recall that back in December, we had a long list of things that were largely about implementing the town plan and some associated activities. The Winery Regional Commission had asked us to submit that list of projects because Putney was newly approved to receive MTAP assistance, which is actually ARPA funded, another form of that wonderful ARPA cash flow. And so we put that list in. The intent was to work with Winery Regional Commission sometime in the first quarter, last quarter. We did not hear from them, but we did hear from our consultants for the town hall renovation, Haven House, that we just talked about earlier. They went ahead and made a request for specific technical assistance, and that's what you see, that's what we're talking about today. After we made this request, and this request is for a project manager to assist the town hall renovation project, and that's a larger position that we were looking for. the opportunity, as it was perceived by the consultants, was to ask for a program manager for the ADA access aspects of the town hall renovation project. That's one important goal. It's not the only, but it's one. They made a request, and the request that came back was for $10,000. The request had been, the project manager position is actually $80,000, but because it was ADA compliance, I believe, we got the $10,000. We now need to go forward to make a full application. And then Gretchen was engaged by Wyndham Regional Commission to assist Putney and other towns to apply for this MTAP money. So we're trying to move these two things together. It is now Gretchen's responsibility to complete the application for this funding.
Great.
One of the steps in that is for the select board to approve the request, hence this.
Okay.
But I'm going to give Gretchen a chance to speak to what she has to do for her application and more about this. But I just want to thank Gretchen for being there for us, and we really appreciate this assistance that she's providing to the town. One other thing she's doing, I'll just say, is on that long list of things that we had back in December, she will be working with us to identify funding sources and contacts for all those things. She may not be available to help us access that, but it is really very helpful to us to have kind of a roadmap of where to look for the money and who to call to understand those. So thank you, Gretchen. I just want to appreciate the work that you're doing for Putney. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, sir.
Gretchen, go ahead.
Thanks.
Wait 1 second.
1 second, can we pin her so that we can see her large while she's presenting? Like make,
Uh-oh, technical problem. Okay.
The speaker.
I think you go to
Speaker view.
There you
yes,
go.
thank you.
There, now you're nice and big on our screen.
As long as I'm speaking, I think I should show up bigger. So thank you all, and I am so sorry because I'd much rather be doing this in person than via Zoom, but due to the weather, I felt that it was necessary to do it like this. So I'm going to step back a little bit and talk about the original MTAP, which is Municipal Technical Assistance Program. And it was designed to identify projects and funding sources for community needs and to assess those needs and opportunities. And the categories that were identified that you could apply for funding were water and sewer infrastructure, housing, community recovery, climate change, which is mitigation and resilience, and community and economic development. And so most recently, so we would be putting in, it's called the Statement of Work, and I think the Haven House had put in a funding opportunity with the Municipal Technical Assistance Program through the state level, and it was approved for $10,000 for the municipal building, the town hall. So we really can't change that up in any way. I think we just need to go with that. And in speaking with Sue and some guidance from Karen through emails, is that we would be going for the ADA piece of this. So a little change. Last Thursday, we were notified that all statements of work have to be submitted by April 30th. And we were under the impression at the time, and that's how long my contract was going through, is June 30th. So this is kind of like, oh wow, we need to do this right away. So that is, so thank you for letting me jump in on your long meeting agenda. So what we need is approval from the select board to put forth this statement of work. And I put together a proposed motion for you, how to word that. So after we put in the statement of work, what will happen is on April 30th and thereafter, the state is going to look at all of the statements of work from the towns that submitted, and they will be assessed by the municipal ranking. It's the Vermont Community Index, and it's about the size of the town. It's about capacity within the town. It's also other grant funding pursued, community impact, and the potential for other funding. And seeing how it is $10,000, I'm hopeful that you guys will be able to get those funds. So, does anybody have any questions around that?
Any questions? I guess not.
Okay. So I will have to work with Haven House a little bit to be sure to put the, as much detail as I can into that statement of work. So, and you'll all be getting a copy of that through Karen and Sue.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion on the board before we make a motion? So can I hear a motion to support and approve the Town of Putney's request for Vermont Municipal Technical Assistance Program funding of $10,000 for ADA access to the historic Putney Town Hall renovation project?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to support and approve the Town of Putney's request for Vermont Municipal Technical Assistance Program funding of $10,000 for ADA access to the historic Putney Town Hall renovation project. Is there any other discussion among the board? Can we put the screen back to the way it was before?
Sure.
Thank you. We're making you work tonight, Karen.
That's okay.
Any comments online? Are there any comments in the room? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we've done that.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Sue.
So the next piece is the Putney Central School street light concern, which is Abby Lifton-Zoline. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and tell us your request?
Yeah, so I live right across the street from the Putney Central School, and just recently they installed some very, very bright street lights. I don't know if they were replacing old ones that had burned out a while ago, but when I moved in here, there were new street lights, and they are incredibly bright LED lights. And it's really disrupting this end of town in terms of the light pollution, and so I am asking that those lights be turned off.
Okay. So I did reach out to John Sessions, the principal of Putney Central School, to ask if he had any concerns if that light was turned off, and he wrote back to me and said he didn't see any concerns at all. And I think you had a discussion with Justin.
So Justin Mason, who's with Green Mountain Power. So Justin and I went and met with Abigail, and Justin emailed me on March 20th and said the lineman had noticed that the light was out like 3 weeks ago, prior to March 20th, and he fixed it. So that is why you have a light in front of the school now. So it was just recently fixed.
So we don't know how long it's been out either.
No.
Okay.
It's probably
So
been out
nobody
for a while.
complained and said, I needed this light on. So we
Right.
don't have any constituent complaints that they actually needed that light.
No.
So it's, I guess it's up to us to have, to say, turn that light off. Is that basically, that's why it's come to us?
Yeah, I mean, I can
That's
reach out to Justin.
That's
and
what it
just-
sounded like, right?
Just say, can you remove the light
Okay.
bulb?
Okay. Does
There won't be
anybody
a light there.
on the select board have any concerns about removing that light?
Not at all.
No? Does anybody on the line have any concerns about removing the light at the Putney School? Anybody?
No, but
Yeah, go
can
ahead.
I just make a comment?
Was that
I have a-
Ellen? Hi. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, right across from the school. I've have become more interested in the whole dark sky movement, which is a worldwide movement. And so I applaud the decision to turn off the light. I have noticed, but I've been here over 30 years, the amount of light pollution from the school in particular over the years. And I changed some of the lights on my house. I don't keep them on at night. They disrupt birds, they disrupt insects. There's also a lot of data that demonstrates that crime does not increase. Not when you turn off lights completely, but when you you point them downward as opposed to everywhere. So I just thought I'd comment, and I think it's great that you're turning it off.
Okay.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
There are actually 2 street lights and then lights on the school property. I don't know if the ones that are on the parking lot, and there's one sort of over a shed area, I think, if those are all part of the town, like part of the same system, or if those ones were requested by the school. There's actually about 5 really bright LED lights that are now shining all night.
Okay.
So.
I think those are, excuse me, I don't want to, excuse me, I don't.
You go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to back and
Sorry.
forth here, so please don't speak unless you're recognized by the chair. So I think that that property, the parking lot is owned by the school district. I think it's worth a shot to go to them, start with John Sessions, but go to them and see what they might be able to do with those lights as well. I could see it being a safety concern, especially in the winter when, it gets dark at whatever, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't remember. When there's basketball games and things going on, they probably want to have that section fairly well lit up, but I don't see why they would have to have them on all night. So that's my personal opinion. So I feel like it's worth a shot going to them as well. We can't do anything about it. We're just responsible for the ones on the road.
Right.
And personally, I don't need any of those lights. I grew up in a really dark road and regularly went tromping off in the woods with no flashlight. And came back alive. So I don't have. I'm in favor of turning them all off. But I think right now let's maybe start with this one.
There are 2, sorry.
There are 2?
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are 2 out on the street outside the school.
Okay, do we have a problem with turning both of them off?
They're street lights,
Street
not school
lights,
lights.
not school
Yeah.
lights.
Sure.
Okay. So, can I hear a motion to approve the removal of those 2 streetlights on, what road is that, Westminster? On Westminster Road.
Yeah, move to turn off the lights.
Move to turn off the lights. Okay. It's been moved and seconded to turn off the 2 lights on Westminster Road, the identified lights on Westminster Road. Is there further discussion on the board? Are there any comments in the room? Any other excuse me? Who's that? Scotty? Was that Scott? Hi.
Just on the topic of lights, maybe this isn't the time or place, but I was wondering if the lights at the paper mill were within this board's control at all, or if there's any plans on turning those off now that they're closing.
That's a good question. Could you identify yourself, your full name?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Scott Dixon. I live on Christian Square.
Okay. That's a good question. It sounds like we've got a larger discussion about streetlights in Putney, which I'm happy to have at some other time.
Okay.
Why don't we put that on a future soon agenda?
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments online? Any other lights we should consider removing? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the next piece is the VTrans annual financial plan for town highways.
So in your packet, this is a yearly annual process, and basically the state appropriates a certain amount of money to municipalities when they have adopted the town road and bridge standards,
Okay,
which we have.
and this is based on mileage?
It is based on, actually, it's based on budget and mileage. So in the packet too is the rate chart for fiscal year 2024.
Okay.
And it has gone up.
Meaning the state's giving us more money?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
That's a first.
yeah, and it's looking like about $148,189.84, which is a lot more than what I've seen over the last 6 years.
Okay.
So, I think with the storms too, you know, they're greater and more damage is being done, so, this is a good program, and it helps, obviously, Putney. And, we can continue to maintain, you know, our dirt roads and paved roads and, but
Okay, so
I
what,
recommend, you know, adopting it.
okay, so there's this, there's this, annual financial plan, which appears to have something we need to adopt, and then there's also the certificate of compliance.
That is correct.
So we have to do both of those?
Yes.
Okay. So what is this called? The
So-
annual financial, just adopt the annual
Yes.
financial plan?
Yeah,
Okay.
for town highways, yeah.
I sort of remember doing this before.
I probably should start doing some motions, taking them out.
That would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, so we don't stumble.
Unless everybody likes to hear us stumble, that's, you know, whatever. Okay,
No.
so, can I hear a motion to adopt the annual financial plan for town highways for the town of Putney?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the annual financial plan for the town of Putney. Is there further discussion on the board about this particular one? We'll go on to the certificate of compliance in a second. Are there any comments online? Any comments in the room? I'm gonna be able to see anybody that's like popping up, right? If hands come up, they're gonna come up right on the top. Okay. All right, so hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and then the next one is to hear a motion to adopt the certificate of compliance for town roads and bridge standards and network inventory. Can I hear a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to adopt certificate, oh my gosh, certification of compliance for town road and bridge standards and network inventory.
So are we
this is the-
comfortable that we have reviewed and understand and comply with the town bridge and road standards? and
So
all
that's
those
something
things
that I'm
we're
pretty
saying?
sure that we've already adopted as something that
Yes.
we've already resolved that we're adopting.
And it
This
has
says that we've reviewed, is it just this other page that we're saying we reviewed?
I think that's the resolution that we adopted
Right.
earlier in the year. And I think to some extent, we're trusting our highway department that we have in fact an up-to-date highway network inventory.
We do,
So,
yes,
Good.
yes, we do. And nothing's changed, so,
We didn't lose any roads recently?
no,
Good.
no.
no, not yet.
We haven't built any new ones either.
Okay, let's keep it that way. All right. So I had a motion on the table. I have a motion on the table. Are there other discussion, questions among the board about this? Any comments in the room? Any comments online? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, now we've come to the EMS District 13 letter of interest. Where is that? Nope. Oh my gosh, all right. So we do have one letter of interest from Heather Small. I'll just read this to the record. It says, "Good afternoon. Please accept this as my letter of intent regarding selection of a new representative from Putney to EMS District 13. As a provider with over 20 years of service and as an individual who seeks to make sure Putney is represented in the district, I would be an excellent choice." So I guess we have an outstanding question as to whether the representative has to be a member of the EMS, the local EMS.
I don't know what the criteria is.
We don't know what the criteria is. Okay. So I guess we
so-
need to find out what that is.
May I make a
Yeah, go ahead.
comment? So, I'm not sure too, as a representative, if the select board recommends to this board as a town representative, sort of like rescue.
So I'm thinking that because it's a state entity, that this is actually a representative from the town of Putney to, like, the Wyndham Regional Commissioner.
Right.
That's an appointment by the town of Putney to serve as our representative. If it's a legal entity, that would be my understanding. I guess we don't necessarily have all the answers we need here.
No, because this one's new. This is something that hasn't been filled in, well, it's been filled by
Prior.
the same person year after year.
Okay, so it's been vacant since then?
It's new.
It's the first I've ever heard of it, so.
That's
I'm
okay,
just-
so, it's always been occupied.
Yes.
Okay. In that, I'm not even sure the legality behind it. And like I said, I've been doing this a long time and in the area for plus or minus 10 years. And I'm not even 100% sure about the legality behind it. I just know that I have a ton of experience. I have a ton of business management experience on top of that. And how that functions would be a really great fit.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about this?
Yeah, was the last time it was filled by somebody who was on our EMS?
I have no idea.
It was Tom.
Okay.
Tom
Okay, there you
Goddard.
go.
Yeah. And it was an annual appointment. It was just, it was
It
part of
just
the
kept
slate.
happening.
It was part of the slate.
Yeah, okay. I feel like I need a little bit more information about the actual position, but I don't have any personal concerns about this particular appointment, personally. So I guess I'd like to wait until next meeting, get a little bit more information about what this position or this board does and what their criteria, if they have criteria. If they don't,
Yeah,
can you
there's
find it?
actually statute here.
Yeah, can you read it like that fast?
No, but just, it is linked from the Facebook post that is on the town Facebook page.
Okay.
I don't know if it's on the website too. I'm getting it from the Facebook, and it lists what the EMS Advisory Committee. I think we just need more time to look at this and understand.
I'm thinking that
what it is.
a question to the LCT may clear this up, hopefully.
Well, reading this might clear it up.
Okay.
Let's start by reading this.
Okay, we can try reading that.
Okay,
I still have faith in VLCT. Sometimes they do give me good answers.
Okay.
Sometimes
I'm
they
happy
give me
to do some more
completely
research on
amorphous
this.
answers that are not helpful, but sometimes they do give me good answers.
Yes, I'd be happy to do some more research on this. And
Okay.
Heather, if you get any more,
I will send it along.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Comment?
Yeah.
Perhaps Zach Rounds might be helpful too, if he's willing to.
Yeah, he
trying-
commented before, and he was.
Right.
I think he was helpful, but I mean, unless you have additional information, Zach, we're putting you on the spot now.
Well, I'm happy to help offline in any way, answer any questions and help with this process, but my recommendation would be to continue your discussion about the fire department before you worry about this advisory board, because it sounds like there's a lot more to unpack there.
Okay. That's fair.
True.
That's true. All right, so I think we're gonna table this until the next week, next meeting. And in the meantime, we're gonna get a little bit more information about that position. And hopefully it will become clear. Sound good? Jeanette?
Could I suggest that probably a better source for information is Will Moran in the Department of Health in the EMS office, because he works directly with the EMS district, the advisory committee and the districts.
Who's that?
Will Moran, M-O-R-A-N, and he's in the Department of Health, the EMS office.
I'm really just interested to see
Yeah.
whether there's any criteria.
Right, that's what he would.
You think they would?
He would be the, yeah. But I also would watch the changing legislation.
Okay, do you happen to know, do you have a number on that one?
I don't, but I know it's passed the House and it is in the Senate now, so it could change dramatically again.
Do you know who sponsored it?
Kathleen Sims.
It's sometimes hard to chase those things unless you know one piece of information.
I know what, I have it written down at home.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
All right, send it to me. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. So we're tabling this for now, right? Okay, so the next piece is the Putney Highway job description.
Which should be in your packet, but I want to table this discussion.
Okay.
Because the fire department right now is a priority. And I'm just gonna say this because I'm gonna take care of the highway department.
Okay.
It is in my, as town manager, I can go ahead and if we have an opening and I will keep you posted on what's gonna happen, but job descriptions do have to be updated, but for the highway department right now, it's not a priority.
Okay. All right, so we're tabling that one. Okay, the next piece is the Putney Fire Department, and the first item under that is the recommendation to purchase auto cascade compressor with attachments. Karen?
So in your packet, Evan Martin had given me 2 quotes, and we had discussed this a week or 2 ago. One is for $20,830. It's a Firematic Supply Company Incorporated. And then the second quote was for $79,854. So Evan and I did talk, and so just so people know, this is an air compressor system that fills up the air tanks that are down at the fire station for when they go to a fire and have to go into a building and or for training. Right now what's happening is one of the members is driving over to Chesterfield with like 25 tanks on the back seat of a vehicle. It takes 2.5 hours to fill the tanks up, and then they drive them back here. So
How often does that have to happen?
it depends on, how many fires and how much training they're doing, So it is important that I'm going to recommend through Evan Martin that we go with Firematic Supply Company. The money, we can use the ARPA money. This is a risk and a liability to the members of the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
And this system too is going to take a little time to be delivered, and it needs to be set up. So this is a priority, and I'm looking for a blessing on this.
Why is there such a difference in price?
I don't know if I can answer that because this is not my specialty. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's really big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think one is with the Cascade, which we already have. And then the other one is not. So the Firematic one is the one that Evan recommended.
Okay.
And it will be compatible with
what we have.
With Westminster too. So this is kind of like it is an upgrade to what we have.
Okay.
But
when you say it's compatible to Westminster, what do you mean?
So this Firematic system will be like what Westminster has.
Oh, it's comparable to. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's the compressor unit itself, there's a $30,000 difference.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Add that to the Cascade, which the other bid doesn't have.
Yeah.
You got $50,000 in difference right there.
Yeah, as long as it's apples to apples, I'm okay with
It
it.
looks at the spec on the compressor, of course, they don't give all the same information, but it looks like
Pretty comparable.
yeah, 6,000 PSI.
Okay.
It's, I'm kind of amazed at the magnitude of the difference, but that's where a big piece of it is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm comfortable with that recommendation.
I just have a question about ARPA funding for this. Not that I'm opposed to spending ARPA funding, but we approved a certain amount of money specifically for fire department strategic plan and second floor renovations, right? So I'm not opposed to broadening that to say that those funds are for fire department upgrades, you know, for the fire department, period.
Fire department, period.
You know?
Yes.
I'm not opposed to doing that, but I think we need to make a motion to do that and agree that to change what we had said we were doing.
If we didn't use the ARPA money, what would happen?
They wouldn't get it. We don't have the money, so
So it's probably more important than doing the upstairs.
that is
Right.
correct.
Yeah.
I'm more in favor of breathing than planning.
No, my recommendation based on Evan Martin's suggestion is to purchase this now.
So basically, we're filling a gap in the.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not opposed to that. I just want to put a motion on the table that our $23,149 that we designated for fire department strategic plan and second floor construction, we're changing that to general expenditures in the fire, as needed expenditures in the fire department.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So moved.
Second.
Hit the home button.
Okay, so I didn't catch the entire thing. So
Yeah.
it's been moved and can we
Go to
mute somebody?
Can we mute somebody? Anybody? Okay, so I move that we repurpose the fire department ARPA funds for strategic planning and second floor construction to fire department general. Undesignated fire department expenditures. Does that make sense?
Sure. Okay, and we had a second on that?
Yes, second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to repurpose the fire department, the ARPA funds, for the fire department for strategic planning and construction to undesignated fire department expenses. Is there a discussion on the board on that motion prior to approving the firematic quote? Is there discussion online about repurposing that ARPA money? Any questions in the room? Okay, so hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so can I hear a motion to approve the quote of $20,830 from Firematic Supply to purchase the compressor.
So moved.
For a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve the quote from Firematic Supply in the amount of $20,830 to purchase the compressor. Any discussion, more discussion on the board? Is there any comments online? Are there any comments in the room? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the next one is the Fire Department Planning Committee discussions. Oops. So, that's, you guys?
I'm up.
You're up, go ahead.
Yeah, Peg and I met to discuss, well, we chased this issue around the room a few times, but to trying to figure out what kind of committee we need to form, and we basically came down to feeling we need something to come up with different models for how we might operate the fire department going forward. We've sort of been working with a model that's more oriented toward a professional fire department, and we felt that, you know, we also ought to be looking at models that are oriented toward more volunteer, which is in fact what we have. So we're sort of neither fish nor fowl right now. So what we were discussing was to form a committee to develop possible models, and that, I think, first step would be, and probably from starting with the Triton report, is to, you know, basically identify the characteristics of the town community of Putney, and then, and it occurred to me after Peg and I spoke that VLCT might be useful on this, try to find communities that are relatively comparable in size and, you know, physical size and population, similar characteristics. I mean, every town's unique. You know, we have not a lot of business and we have a lot of educational institutions. So, and nothing springs to mind. Since Marlborough College went out of business, nothing springs to mind as a possibly comparable, but maybe VLCT can help us identify some. But then approach those communities and ask them how they do it and what they have in terms of fire coverage and what their, you know, what their basic, you know, are they employing people? Are they using primarily volunteers? How do they make it work? So research the organizational structures of the towns that we might identify, or that, not we, but the committee might identify, and then come up with some proposed models of what Putney might do going forward, with the goal of then having a community discussion of it and presenting those possibilities to the community and get a sense of what the town feels about how we want to move forward. Bearing in mind, I think your comment, Aileen, that meeting or two ago, that this really is above what we ought to be doing. It really is a community discussion. I mean, we can try to get the community there, but we really ought to engage the community. What I just outlined about sort of information gathering and model development, though, we weren't thinking we'd be able to get a community meeting off the ground before maybe next August or September. This is going to not be necessarily a simple process.
Okay.
So then it's, okay, who are a good fit for such a committee? I mean, the interim chief should be on it, Karen should be on it, sort of ex officio. It's not that different than what we were looking at as the hiring committee, really. You know, a select board member, some representative from the fire department, probably a representative from the EMS service, and then a couple of community members. I'm not sure, well, hopefully community members who could bring some skills toward doing the research project that we need done. Because I'm not sure that necessarily select board members possess those skills, but hopefully we can rally some support from the community and get some resources that way.
Okay.
So that's sort of where we got to in our discussion.
Okay. As far as the makeup of the committee is concerned, I could see the member of the select board is strictly acting as a liaison as well, just to keep us informed and up to date with what's going on, not necessarily having to not necessarily having a voting voice or having even an active position, but if we wanted to put other people on the, if we wanted to expand the amount of differences that we would put on the committee, it's just a thought.
Yeah, it's really, to my mind, a function of person power.
Mm-hmm.
How many people do you need working on this project to move it forward? And the initial phase, the information gathering and sort of model development, it's going to be a significant amount of work to gather that information and try to come up with, close enough analogies among Vermont towns. I'm really hoping that VLCT has some demographics, some information that can help us at least start. If we come up with a dozen towns that are worth approaching, that would be a good start, if you ask me.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that in my mind, the goal was to understand and the models that are available to us as a community, which might, of course, would include looking to other towns, but other towns are having similar problems too.
Right.
So there might be models that have nothing to do with what other towns are doing, that have to do with a different model than that. So I really see it as, our response, that this committee's responsibility to the community would be to lay out the range of options for us as a community, without an agenda, absolutely no agenda of which of those should be, we should choose, but that committee needs to be able to do the research, to create the potential models, to be able to provide some information about the cost and benefit of those models, and to be able to communicate that to the community in such a way that the community can engage in a meaningful conversation. So it has to be accessible to the layperson, the conversation of making some of these decisions. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And it sort of seemed to me that, tabula rasa is a heavy lift. To come up with a proposal that no other town has right now, I don't know where I would even start with that. At that point, I think our only choice would be go to a consultant, because we don't possess the skill set necessary to do that.
Well, I think
what's the end goal of this
to me, the end goal of this is to have choices outlined for the community that the community can understand and can engage in making a decision about the type of service that they are interested in and willing to pay for.
Okay. And what, in your mind, how does that differ from a strategic plan?
We had that, we had that conversation of not being clear how that differs from a strategic plan.
Okay.
Except I think the difference is this is the beginning of a strategic plan.
Okay.
Like a strategic plan, then, we can't have a strategic plan until we're clear about what model we're using. Are we going to have a full-time fire chief, or are we going to have, what model are we using?
Okay.
And then we can do the strategic plan.
So the model would potentially
inform
whether we would like to have full-time, part-time.
Exactly.
What those,
what the
job
those
description
roles, those
would be.
jobs,
Okay.
those,
All
right, distribution
Okay.
of, yeah.
I think that's a good start, myself. Does anybody else on the board have any ideas? There's lots of hands. Okay, so Karen.
So I just want to update the board with what's happened in the last week. So I met with the members of the fire department last evening. We had a 3-hour meeting. Just so this board knows that Evan Martin has resigned. Brian Harlow at the moment is interim. Our meeting last night, it got uncomfortable. It got a little loud. I felt the frustration. I heard and listened to the members. And there's some work to do. I know you're trying to do this committee, and the 6 months or the 4 months it's going to take. The priority right now is the department and making sure that we have coverage for this community of 2,700 people. And I recognize some deficiencies, and I felt where the members were coming from last night. Right now, what is happening is that we have mutual aid coverage from Westminster and Dummerston and Brattleboro, as we need it. Rescue will be here to cover calls. I will be setting up an appointment with Drew Hazelton, probably when I get back from vacation. They have a huge training next week anyway, to discuss an agreement to work with them. And the interim fire chief will be in that meeting as well. So with change too, we lost some other folks. I will say that. Right now, there's 20 people on the roster. And I had a good meeting after the meeting with the members, with Chris Fennell, Evan Martin, and Brian Harlow. Brian was in my office today. He was on the phone lining up more support. So I'm focusing on the members right now. I need to work with them. And the people that we have lost have years of experience. It's personal and, you know, it's unfortunate and we still have some work to do. But I'm gonna ask this board that you're gonna have to allow me to work with these folks. And with Brian and, you know, to move this forward. What I don't want to do is go backwards, okay? So everything that has happened to date is in the past. We need to move forward. We need to reassure this community that we have services, so if there's a fire or a call, there's going to be somebody there. So this is going to take some work. It's going to take the people that are in the membership at the fire station. Those people know a lot more than I do. And I'm going to rely on them for a lot.
Well, I, for one, really appreciate Brian's willingness to step forward. And everybody else who has hung in there. You know, but I'm glad we have some leadership now to tide us over.
But we have leadership in a lot of different people in this department.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Thank you for that, Karen. I have a lot of hands up, and I realize that we need to have a discussion about the fire department and where we stand right now. That's not what we're talking about on the agenda, so if we want to take 10 minutes to do that right now, we can do that. I'd like to set a timer on that so that we can move back to the discussion that we have on the agenda. So we have a timer.
Okay.
And I'm going to take down names of people who want to speak. So I have Jeanette. Sue?
Yeah, but I want to speak to the question that was on the table. So
You don't want to speak to the fire department
no,
in general,
to the
so I'll take
question
you
on the
up.
table, so,
Okay,
okay.
I have Zach Rounds. I have, is that Casey Darrow?
Casey Darrow, yeah.
And I have Laura Chapman. Is there anybody else who wants to speak? I'm giving the whole of you 10 minutes to speak. Is there anybody else online? Okay, we'll start with Jeanette.
Thank you. Mine is going to be very short. I'm going to echo what Karen said. I think that setting up a committee to look at this is important. I think right now it's important to look at what's there, and I think we need to not only acknowledge the people that hung in, and Brian, but the people that also left, who left for very, who left under circumstances where they did not necessarily want to leave, but felt that they could not continue. So, but they gave a lot of service for a lot of years, and I think that we need to let Karen work with the department and the people that are there. They know the best. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have Zach is next.
You can hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, so for the sake of time, my words are going to be wisely chosen. But I would urge you to reconsider the time limit, because this is a very serious matter, what Karen has just bestowed upon this group. And I think that there are some serious concerns about the current department's ability to respond to emergency calls. So my concern is that with the group of people that just departed, especially considering some of the faces that have just departed from the fire department, the interim fire chief who had a very short tenure, and the leader of emergency medical services. The short list of people that are qualified to respond to fire emergencies on the department's roster currently of 20, as well as only 2 emergency medical providers at the EMT level of higher able to provide emergency care in your town. I suggest that you consider your strategic committee as more of an acute response to what is going on with the fire department. This is not a long-term issue anymore. This is a acute situation that has a lot to do with how emergencies will be handled here. So I, in 2019, was sought out by the Vernon Selectboard after they closed their fire department down because of chronic issues that occurred. And they sought me out to rebuild their emergency medical program there. And once that was done, I left. It proved to be highly successful there for that department, and they did it once they felt that they had no other choice. The reset button had to be pushed, and it was the most dramatic and most effective option. But my suggestion for this board to consider tonight, especially based on the Brattleboro Reformer article that went out today, is that if there is not the ability to cover emergencies, then you should not be planning while concurrently being responsible for emergency calls. I recommend that you close the Putney Fire Department down until you can come up with a strategy to safely and effectively manage emergency calls in your town.
Okay, thank you. Casey Darrow?
Yes, I'd like to clarify to the select board, sort of expanding on what Karen said. She said that there were a few other members that left, and I believe it was actually 12, so I think that's an important point. And then I think it's a little bit disingenuous for people to be making the claim that there are 20 members still on the department. Those members, that roster has to be considered with a grain of salt. There's a lot of people on that roster who have not set foot in the building for quite a long time. So do not be fooled by any claims that there are 20 members on the department. Most of the active members that are not landmark kids resigned last night. So I hope that you guys understand the gravity of this situation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Laura?
I just want to understand exactly how many members we have at this point, because my understanding is that what Casey just shared, 12 members left, and my understanding from the AP Triton report was that we only had about 12 members that were qualified. So that's really concerning to me in this moment. And I want to understand what Brian Harlow's qualifications are to be chief at this point, and whether or not we really have a fire department in this moment that's able to respond in a qualified way. And Casey and Zach's comments, I want to support them.
Okay, thank you. So Karen, can you explain the mutual aid piece, or
the agreements?
Yeah.
Or so Evan Martin, before he left, contacted the towns, and so what'll happen is if someone here can't respond, then a mutual aid town would come.
Okay.
Okay. There are 31 people on the roster, and Casey, you're right. I think I had counted 11, but 12 might be the number. And so that would leave, 19 or 20. I don't know who's trained in what and what may have expired.
Okay. What's the difference between the arrangement we have now versus shutting the department down, which I assume would have much the same effect. I have Zach up, actually.
Yeah,
Zach, can you answer that question?
Yeah, I'd rather have Zach, because Zach, and can you let us know, Zach, what your background is?
I definitely can, yeah.
Thank
So
you.
Currently I'm up at St. Michael's College studying to become a physician assistant and studying public health. But my background to the area is I live in Putney. My parents live in Putney. I have a job at Rescue Inc., which I work part-time for when I'm home. And I have served with the Vernon Fire Department, as I previously stated, in their time of need. I raised my hand again because the question, I feel, if answered differently, could sway your opinion tonight, so I want to make sure it's clear. If you close the doors for the fire department, then when an emergency occurs, it won't go before Putney at all. It will automatically go to somebody else and get units on the road quicker.
Right.
If you go with only mutual aid arrangements, then you're giving Putney the opportunity to respond to the call, which could be a delay of minutes in any emergency if they can't get someone on the road. And just to reiterate why I'm recommending this, it's because there, from what I understand, is a serious lack of trained individuals on the remaining roster. And even if you can get a truck on the road, whether or not you have adequate supervision of these emergency personnel and can keep all of them safe is a decision that I don't think anybody in this room is qualified to make. And I say that respectfully. I think that there is a huge safety risk if you continue to let people that don't have training run this apparatus, run into emergencies, and there's a huge risk if patients or people that are calling 911 cannot get the help they need timely.
I have a question, and that's the split between the fire and the EMS. It sounds like what was on the table at the beginning of this discussion was that the EMS would be go to rescue. So it basically would be kind of doing what Zach is saying. We've shut down the Putney EMS response, and it would go to rescue, right?
And no matter what, rescue is going to be there anyway.
Right.
If it's a medical call, that's the thing. It's just whether or not rescue helps in additional ways, I think, is what you're considering.
I'm just trying to understand the who responds to the call. Like it, with, I guess I understand with the rescue side of it, and now with the fire, but they're two different sides. I just want to be really clear about that. That there's the fire and the emergency, and for the fire, right now, if we keep the fire department operational, then it'll go to our fire department first, then to mutual aid, as opposed to going directly to mutual aid. What? Yeah, is that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Heather.
So I just wanted to touch on the fact that I haven't heard anything about automatic aid, which is kind of in the middle. Instead of waiting for Westminster or Dummerston, they get automatically toned out with Putney. And that way you have maybe a response from Putney, and then you have at least one or two other departments who are automatically getting toned out at the same time. The other thing I kind of wanted to touch on is in the last meeting, and in meetings prior to that, we've really discussed members who have felt alienated and have left prior to this incident. My question is if they feel welcome to come back, where do you want them to apply?
What? I'm sorry. Where would we want them to apply?
Yes, how do you want them to come in and state their interest to becoming a more active member in the fire department if they've been gone for some time?
I mean,
We're not thinking about that right now.
I think so. As far as this board is concerned, I don't think that that's something that we need to get into the weeds with. That
right.
Theoretically, there's a functioning fire department. It's got a chief who is able to take those applications in and and run the department effectively at some point in the future. Apparently that's not what we have right now. I agree with Karen that there's been a lot of unfortunate things happening in the past few years and the past month that have led us to this point. And I have my own role in that, and I'm publicly apologizing that I haven't necessarily spoken up in ways that have been helpful to this community, or not spoken up in either way. But I do feel like we do need to move forward, and if shutting down the department is safer, then I am willing to do that. I don't have any, I've told many people this, I don't have any skin in the game here. I don't know anything about fire service. At the end of the day, I just want to have service, reliable service for this town. So whatever the best solution is, we should take. So if we're going that route, then the other things that we've talked about here, change a little bit. But go ahead, Peg.
Right. I just want to say, I wish we had started the conversation with this instead of the longer range planning issue, but I think you have to decide as chair, we're finished with the time that you allotted to kind of get off topic.
Yep.
But it's an important topic. It's not as though it's not a topic that is deserving of our time. So I would suggest we stick with this and we
stick with the conversation.
Stick with this conversation and figure out what to do currently, and then that. I still think that whatever we decide to do currently, we need a plan to get out of wherever we are now.
Definitely.
But I'm more than happy to hold off on that for a short time.
Yeah, and to your point that we should have maybe discussed this earlier, this entire situation has been so fluid. I have not been able to keep up. And the agenda needs to be posted by Monday. So with that said, you think we should keep going with this conversation?
I do think we should keep going.
So too.
And it seems like we have two options. Karen, you laid out a plan for what to do with the fire department since Evan quit and a bunch of people walked. So that's one plan, and the other option, that's one option, and the other option is to shut the department down. And I wonder, after this conversation, would you still be advocating for option A, or are you, where are you at in that?
So where I'm at is, I heard Zach, and Zach's absolutely right. Because the town is at risk in liability if something happens. Again, I haven't been through any files. I don't know, certifications or anything, training. And at this point, I agree, we need coverage, we need good, reliable coverage.
And are you saying you could get that we can get that better by closing the department down at this point and going to relying on the mutual aid?
There's a core of people at the department right now. If we can work through this, I'm not 100% certain if folks, the 12 that did leave, would consider coming back or not. I do know that Evan Martin and Chris Snell did say, if the department needed anything, and they were here in town, they would help out. So there is support there. This is a brand new change. This just happened yesterday, so I don't really have I haven't been in there. I don't know if I can answer that question, but until I get into the files and see what's there. I mean, and talk to more people. I mean, last night's meeting is, you know, it was long. People were able to, you know, vent and, you know, they put a lot of time into training and education, and they do have skills. You know, if it's a matter of some of them just, you know, taking a couple trainings to, you know, get their certification up or, you know, renewed. You know, it's the training, we've got to get that back in there too. And I think it was there, it just wasn't being recorded right, so.
And what I understand you saying is that at this point, you don't know what's there. You don't know what the skill set.
I haven't
with
been,
that.
I can't tell you.
Yeah.
Because I'm not familiar with the language.
Is there somebody that can tell us?
EMS is different than fire. I did, there is a national database you can go on and look, you know, for specific people for EMS. The fire, however, the state doesn't have a record. It would be down in the office of fire department. There should be a list, and it might be right in ESO. I just haven't been able to get down there and see. So, and you know, the department, these people can tell us. You know, it's taking the time and sitting with each person.
Okay. What do we do right now? Did you have something?
Well, I was gonna actually call him Rory. I want to hear his opinion. He's one of the EMTs down there.
Advanced EMT.
What's that?
Advanced EMT.
Okay, advanced EMT. But I just wanted to kind of hear what you had to
In
say.
terms of certificates and formal training, there is, Vermont is a national registry state, so as Karen said, you can look up EMT and other emergency medical certificates. Vermont is also a Pro Board state. It operates through the Pro Board fire system, and you can look up formal Pro Board certificates through the Pro Board website. As for actual training on the department, if you're looking for formal certificates that are currently not expired, I have Fire One and a bevy of other certificates. Colby, one of our other members, I think he's just finishing up his hazmat requirement for Fire One. Outside of that, everything else, I believe, of the people who are left is just in-house training.
Okay. So I have 4 other hands up. I have, and it's gonna be in this order: Ruby, Billy, Laura, and Zach. Ruby, you're up.
Hi, I have 2 things to say, and the first is me just personally, and I will be writing a letter to the editor as well, but I 2 years ago, my mother catastrophically broke her leg, and the people in that fire department were excellent, and it's what hurts me. I'm so sorry I'm getting emotional, but it hurts me when we are talking about people who I understand if their training was inadequate and things need to be brought up to speed. I get it. I'm not arguing that. But I want these individuals to know that they are valued. So much I value them. It was the hardest thing my family's ever experienced, and the people in that room who were there to support us are the same people who are in the fire department now, in the EMS now, and some of them probably have left. So I really want to be very, very clear about that. that I hope that those individuals hear my voice and the many people who feel gratitude for all that they've put in. All of this us and them stuff, all of this who's in the past and who doesn't feel comfortable there now, as a community member who is not part of the fire department, I don't care. I want to be served, and I want, when someone comes and serves me, I want to feel supported, and I did. I probably will the next time. If Westminster comes, if someone else who is new to me comes from Putney, I will feel supported because I have faith in this community and I have faith in the people who show up. But I desperately want the individuals who feel slighted now to understand how valuable they have been to me and my family. That's what I would like to say personally. The second thing that I have to say, and then I have to jump off because I have kids and all these things I have to do. As the coordinator of Putney Community Cares, and Karen, I know that you know this because we had a sit-down meeting before Tom left, there are things that the fire chief particularly, but the fire department has done to help our organization as a social service organization when we need a wellness check, when there is an unhoused individual that we become aware of, that we activate with the support of the fire department to have a kind of wraparound service to make sure that vulnerable individuals in our town are served. And so I'm voicing that is something that has been a service that's been provided for years. That when we do this, whatever transition, whatever step you go to, like tomorrow, I know that Karen's going on vacation, but tomorrow I need to talk to someone to find out what do we do now? Do I call 911? If tomorrow I have an older adult that isn't answering the door and I need a wellness check, I knew what to do because I talked to Evan. I knew what to do when he was in the role. Now he's not. So I need to know what to do now. And so as you go forward and as we continue and as we figure out what the next steps are, that is a function that I need to know a path forward. And I want to call out that I felt confidence, Tom leaving was a big deal. It happened quickly. It was a little bit rocky. But once the baton was passed and once you figured out the interim chief, I felt confidence about, okay, we know how this particular need will be served. It will look a little different. There'll be some growing pains, but I don't want, now the passing of the baton is, I don't want it to be fumbled. And so if you appoint Brian, I would really like to have a meeting with Brian, even if it's over just the phone. If it's something else, if I have to call Westminster, I would like to know who it is in Westminster. The specific function of how we do it, we don't need to get in the weeds right now, but that is a really important way in which we serve our community, both the older adults that, particularly get wellness checks that are activated by Putney Community Cares. And then as we get into warmer weather, we will see an increase in unhoused individuals in our town and in individuals who just really need our support, vulnerable individuals. So that's all I have to say. I don't need a response, but I'm hoping that whether it's reaching out to Aileen as the board chair or the chief email is being monitored by someone, because we're going to need to understand that even when Karen's on vacation. She would be my point of contact normally.
Right. Ruby's right.
Yep. And just to answer the last part of that, usually when Karen's gone on vacation, I've been the point person for things like that. The next person is Billy.
Hi, Billy Strauss. This is just going to be an effort to be tactically clear, because there's clearly a lot of confusion in the room. In the acute moment that we're in, and I'm distinguishing between the acute crisis and the longer term planning that does need to happen, you guys need to differentiate between fire and EMS. And that has been sort of talked about, but it got confused again tonight. And so I'm going to say it very clear to everybody on the board, everybody in the room. These are two separate wings of our emergency response in town. I cannot speak to the fire side, but I have been a medical responder affiliated with this department for 20-something years. There is a plan in place. It is not, to my understanding, signed and done deal yet, but Karen alluded to it earlier, so I don't think I'm speaking out of school here, but I feel like it needs to be reset in a clear way, that there is a plan under which responders who are affiliated with Rescue Inc., if and when, and there are several who are already, and there is potentially several more who could become affiliated, would be responding to emergency medical calls in Putney, not under Putney's license, but under Rescue Inc.'s aegis.
But
I don't...
in Putney, people that are in Putney.
In Putney.
Gotcha.
So I'm saying this because I want you guys to understand this so you can take your conversations offline. I also want to somewhat alleviate people's concerns in town, which are, I'm sure, high right now, about at least the medical side. There is a path forward that can be put into place quite rapidly, is my understanding, that would provide effectively a number of the same faces, a number of the same qualified folks responding to emergency medical calls in town. And I don't think it's a done deal yet, but Karen alluded to it earlier. She said, I heard her say she's meeting with Drew, I think, tomorrow. So if that gets done, then that is, in my mind, our short-term EMS solution. I cannot speak to the fire side. I think somebody should speak to the fire side. I don't think we've heard enough about the fire side, but that's what's going on the medical side. And I encourage you guys to kind of keep them somewhat separate for now until we get back to the point where we can have a cohesive emergency response team housed in the Putney Firehouse.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Because I was not clear on that either. Laura?
Thanks. I'm trying to incorporate the last comments into, because they covered some of what I was thinking about. First, I recognize how stressful this has been for everybody, having paid close attention to what's going on. And I want to express my gratitude to each of you on the board for trying to work through this, and to Karen. I imagine that it's put many extra hours on your schedules and that it probably hasn't been a whole lot of fun. That said, I'm a little, the quit and walk away language that we're using about these 12 folks that have felt like they had to step away is really bothering me, and I think that it's what Ruby said covered a lot of what I'm feeling. Like, these are folks that have saved lives, have given so much of themselves, and so I just want to be really careful in how we honor all of the people past and present that have served in this department, and obviously we need to move forward and we need to make the changes that need to be made, but I think that's really important. And I want to say that, like, my confidence, I appreciate what you just said, but my confidence is enormously shaken right now. Like, I feel like if something were to happen to my house in this moment, what would that mean? And how long would it take for people to get here? It's already a long time. We know that. And I don't want any further delays because there are folks that are now stepping back in, maybe, that I still don't feel like I have an understanding of the qualifications of Brian, frankly, and that's not for me to understand, I guess. I don't know. I also think part of how we got here, and I'm going to try and say this as diplomatically as I can, I think it's really important that when we're discussing town employees, we don't do that in public, especially if we're calling them to the mat for anything. And I think that's a part of how we got here into this moment. And so I'm a little frustrated with that, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. This is an upsetting moment for our town, and I hope that we can right this ship very quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
I'll just go on to Zachary.
I know I'm talking a bunch, spoke a bunch, so I'll try and keep it quick. But I do want to reiterate what Billy said, which is that there are paths forward, regardless of how this goes down. But most of the paths forward that encompass the best case scenario for safety for everyone involve shutting down first. If you shut down the department, there will be a continuity of operations for every emergency that could happen in Putney. And the other comment that I want to make is that while the first and foremost concern is obviously the 2,700 citizens in Putney, but the Putney Fire Department is responsible for covering emergencies on 10 to 13 miles or something like that of interstate highway between Brattleboro and Westminster. And so any emergency on the interstate, the Putney Fire Department is the primary call. So this is not just a within Putney situation. And while there are endless mutual aid arrangements that can occur in the interim, if you don't stop toning Putney until you guys can figure out what's going on here and the best path forward, then there will be delays. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Trevor?
Hello, I resigned from the Putney Fire Department yesterday after 2.5 years. I've been in the fire service for 11 years. I took the day today to still try to figure out how we're here, how we got here, what happened. We need to, in the long term, figure out a way to bridge the gap between where you all are sitting right now and Carl Snyder Drive. That trust is broken. There's been games played. There's been backstabbing. There's been public comments made directly attacking individuals on television. In the immediate future, this department needs to shut down. We need to reevaluate. It sounds like you guys have a committee going for just about every aspect of the fire department. And that's gonna take a lot of time. And if the department's not shut down in the immediate future, lives are at risk, and community lives are at risk, and the people that stayed at the Putney Fire Department, their lives are at risk. Sending understaffed trucks with folks who have done in-house training, all the experience has left. Their mentorships are gone. I don't know how you guys are going to right this wrong, but it's in your hands now. Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
It's for Karen. Have you talked? I mean, Brian must have a plan in place. I mean, I'm sure this is
Brian
not just
online?
left wide open.
Brian's not online.
I don't think so, no. So what was that last part? Sorry.
I'm sure this isn't left wide open. I mean, I'm sure he's talked to other chiefs, other towns.
Yes.
Dispatch. So
Yes.
there's arrangements in place.
There are
Right.
arrangements.
So if they feel it's something major, they're gonna start more resources, besides Putney. I think everybody knows that the situation we're in, and they're gonna send help along with Putney if Putney doesn't get a truck out. And I'm
Yes.
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's make that clear, all right.
Well, what I've been hearing is that if Putney gets toned first, there's a delay. That's what I've been hearing. Is that the way that it's working right now? Or is there, one second, Is there more of a, I am assuming that Westminster, Dummerston, Brattleboro, all the area places understand our situation.
They do, yes.
So I'm unclear as to how much of a delay we're actually talking about and whether we are actually being toned for things like the highway, because I was under the impression that those things were actually already being taken. Rory?
So as it stands right now, when Evan submitted his letter last night at 7 p.m., mutual aid agreements automatically went into place. When it comes to medical calls, it's up to the dispatcher's discretion as to what they tone. If it sounds like a non-serious medical issue, tone Putney only. If it sounds like a serious medical issue, they'll tone Dummerston. When it comes to the interstate, Westminster is already on an automatic response. There's no delay, so when the tone goes out for us, the tone will also go out for Westminster. When it comes to a still alarm, which is just any type of fire alarm activation with no indication of fire, Putney will be toned along with the next due engine company according to our run card. So another engine will automatically be on the way for any type of smoke alarm activation.
No matter what?
No matter what. When it comes to confirmed structure fires, then the run cards will play out as they would whether or not Putney would show up. So all of the other mutual aid departments who are already on our run cards for any type of given fire will automatically be toned and show up. So everything is already in place for other departments to show up automatically. The question then just becomes time, obviously, because these other departments are in other towns. But the systems are in place for other departments to respond immediately with no delay.
Thank you, Rory.
Trevor, does that change your, would that change your recommendation?
At this time, no, that does not change my recommendation. Okay. I think that if Putney arrives on the scene of a serious situation and members have to put themselves at risk, that currently the training will put those members at severe risk.
Okay. So
help is too far away.
Help is too far away?
Westminster's got to drive from their jobs to the Westminster station. Then they got to drive from Westminster station to Putney. We're looking at 20 minutes before Westminster shows up anywhere. Dummerston, same thing. Maybe they're 18 minutes instead of 20 minutes. This is a severe issue, and I really hate to see the folks that I care about at the firehouse get injured because of decisions made tonight.
Okay. 1 second, Billy. What is the board's feeling at this point?
I'd love to have a conversation with Brian. You know, if you put him in charge, you have confidence in him. You know, that would be my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to, is Zach still with us?
Yes.
Yes.
Zach, could you respond to the last comments that were made about response time not being slowed down if we still have an operational Putney Fire Department?
I certainly can try. In my opinion, it's reassuring that these plans were in place when Evan departed. It sounds like there was some strategic thinking ahead about who was going to cover these emergencies, which to me implies there's a lack of personnel. So Trevor is completely correct that having mutual aid companies started immediately, it doesn't change the fact that they're coming from out of town, and closing the fire department down isn't going to fix that. It's going to come with some inherent delay because they're coming from another place, but they're at least coming. Trevor and I, it sounds like, shared the concern that if you continue to tone Putney with personnel, and I want to also give Rory some respect here. Rory I have gone on countless emergency calls with, and he is very, very intelligent, so thanks for chiming in here, Rory. But as far as anyone else on the roster, I just don't know who those names are, and it sounds like no one really knows right now who these people are and what the training is that they have. Are they qualified to be on an engine company? You know, do they have the certifications to go into a burning building or be the first on the scene to a structure fire? I don't know. And if no one else knows, then my opinion has not changed. I would seriously urge you guys to take action on this tonight. Because if you don't know the answers, then there isn't time to schedule a meeting before the next emergency. Like, you don't know when the tone will drop. And there needs to be personnel accountability for sure. And I'm not questioning any judgment on the interim fire chief, or I don't know the guy, but I don't need to know the guy. If we don't know credentials of any command staff, that's posing a problem, you know, and like, it's a concern. So it's a concern for personnel, it's a concern for patients, it's a concern for people that might lose their house in a fire, you know? And Eric's right, like, if people are lined up to get started, that's good. And I'm sure that those plans were thought out. It's a good thing, but this is a very complex and serious thing that you have to decide.
Okay, I have, is that Morgan? Okay, I have Morgan, Bradford, and then Martha, and then Heather, and then Billy.
Hi, my name is Morgan. I live in Putney. I'm also a physician assistant, and my husband is on the fire department. I guess I'm really scared about this transition, and I'm hearing a lot of unknowns. And like Select Board, this is a really big question for you, and I think you need counsel on about fire and EMS. Like, this is a very complex system. There are people in this town that have decades of experience. They've been ostracized and they've left because they've been hurt. But I think what really needs to be done is some bridge building. You need to get together with the people in our community who have been keeping us safe for decades, and you need to see what a solution could be from their point of view. Because I think it's unfair to ask you to fix this because you just don't have the experience and don't have the understanding of the EMS system. And I mean that totally with respect. You know, when I have a complex cardiology patient, I send them to a cardiologist. I don't manage it myself. I'm hearing a lot of miscommunication between people with a lot of experience and people making the decisions. And I really urge everyone to work to build these relationships again. You know, my husband's been involved in the department for a long time. He's been in EMS for over 20 years. He's an EMT. And I'm seeing his community fall apart, and I'm because they're so just really hurt by how disrespected they've been. And I think it's hard in EMS to say that outright, but I'm saying it now as a person who's really concerned about the safety of the community as a medical professional. Please get together with people who have the experience and the knowledge and come up with a plan that respects their hard work and respects their expertise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question. I'm 100% with you, and I wonder what you think we should do tonight. I mean, I just would like some opinions of some other people. So I'm totally with you about respect and what we need to do moving forward. We have before us right now the issue of whether or not we should shut the fire department down tonight or not. And I'm just wondering, from your experience as a medical provider, as a partner to a firefighter, I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
So I will say that I am not very experienced in the emergency medical system. You know, I've been kind of on departments intermittently for a while, but it's not, I focus on my family, it's not my thing. I would listen to Evan, the former interim chief, who created a plan that my understanding is he sent an email to Karen about. and he talked to other departments to create this plan. I would also listen to Billy Strauss, who has also done a lot of work to try to make sure that our community is safe as we're kind of watching this relationship crumble. That's what I would do tonight, and then tomorrow I would try to get everyone together and work to rebuild the relationship that's been broken.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on to Martha, can you identify your full name?
Hi, this is actually.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. My volume's screwed up. Yes.
Usually that happens if you have more than one speaker on.
There we go.
Okay. No, it's still there.
Under my mother's name, Martha. My concern is, what is the legal responsibility that he faces if we send out people who end up getting harmed during their service? I know Brian has been on the fire department or active with the fire department for years. He's been heading our highway department and doing a fine job there. But what is his actual experience? Does he have the experience and the qualifications to run the fire department? I know that I've been cooking for 50 years, but that doesn't mean that I can go and be an executive chef somewhere. So it seems like an unfair burden to put on him, even though I understand he probably volunteered for it. And you gotta give him kudos for that. That's wonderful that he's willing to step up like that. But that really puts an unfair burden on him and the rest of the department as well, and the town. I'm really concerned about how we move forward here, and I have to agree with Zach. I think it really sounds like it might be the best thing to just shut the department down until things are straightened out, and then restart. I worked in Vernon while they were closed down, while their department was closed down, and had need to call 911, and the Brattleboro Fire Department responded. We had a wonderful experience, and I think we need to reach out to mutual aid and go that route. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Heather?
Just to touch on the previous speaker, if you look at Vermont Title 20, Chapter 175, subsection 2922, it outlines the responsibility and liability for fire departments in the state. The second thing I wanted to touch on is everybody's talking about certifications and things like that. Rory really covered it, except for the point that in Vermont, statute reads that you do not have to have a firefighting certification in order to fight fire, as long as you have the chief's blessing. And that comes with training and things like that. There are certain things you need to do and to meet in order to be able to do that and to operate. So I think certification and qualification is a range. Do I think that everybody here, there, and everywhere, past, present, and future, is 100% certified, qualified? Probably not. But I think starting with building blocks. If you've got something is better than nothing, right? As long as we act in our scope.
Not necessarily.
As long as we're acting in our scope,
hold on,
we're okay, right? So if your scope of training is this big and you don't act this big, it's a starting point. This big is mitigation. This big is resolution. So if we decide to not shut down the fire department and you get this much, but you have this much 3 minutes behind them, and you have this much 10 minutes behind them, and you have this much 15 minutes behind them, we're not waiting 15 minutes, we're waiting 2 and 3 and 5 and 7 and 10. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. Thank you. Billy?
Hi, I just try to be quick here. At the risk of being repetitive, I just want to really clarify that when you guys on the board are asking people for input on some piece of this, please preface it by saying whether you're asking with respect to fire or EMS, because they really, really are different in this moment. I know we're used to having everything under that roof, and we will get back there eventually, but they are in this moment very different. And so I want to also clarify, sort of following up on Zach and some of the other things that have been said, that essentially if this arrangement with rescue is put into place, it amounts to shutting down the EMS side of our fire department on a practical level. And whether or not the town manager or whoever responsibility it would be to actually call up state and say we are officially suspending our license as an agency to practice EMS in the town, I'm not sure about the admin piece of that. There are people around who know about that. I think it's basically a phone call and some paperwork to say we are no longer acting as a licensed EMS agency. So I just want to be clear that on the EMS side, if I understand correctly what's going on, we're probably 90% of the way down that road with an interim solution to the acute challenge that we face. And it's just a question of solidifying that arrangement, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and then yes, Karen or whomever it falls to will have to make a decision. It may be Brian at this point if he's the interim chief, I don't really know, but somebody would need to make the call to the state to effectively suspend or pause our license as an EMS response agency. So then you're left with what to do about the fire side. And I just am encouraging you guys to try to sort of parse those, because they're going to be separate until we can come back to having a homogeneous kind of holistic response within the firehouse. Hope that's helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Just to be clear, so the current EMS folks who are part of our fire department can still work if they're eligible to work with rescue. So those folks could still be in operation, but working under the auspices of rescue. If we if we do the same on the fire side of the house, our current firefighters, unless they join another fire department, they would not be fighting fires. Am I correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I have Trevor up again.
I just want to make one final point, and I appreciate you guys' time tonight. A simple risk-benefit analysis of the situation. The risk, if you keep the department open, I'll talk on the fire side to be clear, someone could get killed. Very real possibility. They have a leadership structure that's not effective, and I'm not personally speaking about the interim chief. I'm speaking as a whole. It's completely ineffective. There will be no leadership there. There will be no oversight. So, very real possibility, a major fire happens tonight, someone could get killed. You shut the department down, you eliminate that risk. We just eliminate Putney with 3 people on a fire engine, and we have our surrounding communities take care of us until we figure this mess out. That seems a lot safer and a lot smarter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, what does the board want to do?
Is there anybody else up there?
I don't believe so. Trevor, can you put your hand down unless you need to say something else?
Yeah, my apologies. I'll work.
That's okay, thank you.
I want to keep our people safe. It sounds like we have a lot of professionals saying that they're at risk right now.
I mean, go ahead.
I'd really like to talk to Brian and hear his side of it, because
I would prefer he get on this, can he get onto the meeting? Because
well, I think
we're having conversations in his name without him, and I don't think that's really fair.
Although I'm not.
I think if there's a conflict of interest, someone should remove themselves if there's any conflict of interest.
I'm not sure, I'm actually not sure whether Brian is at all the issue here. Like,
I'd
I'm
like to get his opinion because he has been appointed the interim chief. So I just want to get his opinion on what's going on. If there's been any other developments on who's trained or what's happened.
Maybe I can get him on the phone.
Okay, because if we can't talk to him tonight, I feel like the best solution is to shut the department down. That's my feeling.
I think what I keep hearing is that, I mean, I think Billy's correct about how the EMS side can work and that we're pretty close to a functional,
System.
Stopgap, I guess.
Yeah.
What I keep hearing is that nobody has a good handle on what we have as resources for the fire side.
Yep.
We don't know who we've got and we don't know what qualifications they have.
Right.
So it seems to me that the first thing that we need to, I mean, right now, not hearing different from Brian, I would say from a liability and safety standpoint, closing the department is a good idea, but that doesn't mean that the chief doesn't have a job. I mean, it seems to me the first thing that the chief needs to do is find out what resources he has. Get everybody, current, former, however long ago, whatever, anybody who's willing to step forward, and then find out what they bring to the table. What have they got for qualifications before we can start talking about, or he can start considering how to rebuild a department. We just plain need to know what resources we have.
I agree with that, but obviously we can't do that tonight. I mean,
well,
we could maybe start the conversation, but I'm getting the sense that we have a decision here tonight, and the decision is to keep the department open with Brian as the interim chief and a mostly functioning stopgap for EMS and heavy reliance on mutual aid and an unknown about the level of training on the fire side that people, the remainder people have versus shutting down the department, the fire side in particular, because the EMS part, as I'm understanding, is basically shifting to rescue anyway. And then coming up, giving ourselves a little bit of breathing room to rebuild the department, do some of the bridge building that we know we need to do, and come up with a solid plan to reopen it with a good solid structure underneath it instead of what we kind of got right now, which is a very unstable situation that I personally have been chasing for the past month.
I agree with you.
Okay. Heather?
I just wanted to point out, I mean, we're talking about significant changes in the last 12 to 24 hours. If we go back to the AP Triton report on page 62, it highlights the exact same problem. This is not a new problem.
Oh, no, I know so.
And there's no change except for a handful of people who have chosen to no longer serve the department. So how is it today that this is any more at risk than it was 2 days ago?
It sounds like more than a handful of people. A third of the department is gone.
Yeah, we don't have, what we've heard is that we don't have the people power to safely run fire trucks, and whether it's been a long time coming, and I think it has, and whether it happened 2 days ago, whether it happened a month ago, this is where we're at right now, and I think we need a solid, stable, functioning plan in place for the interim while we go through the AP Triton report, come up with a solid plan and do, and build bridges, like, I think it was Morgan said. I'd like to have Karen come back. Mary?
I just wanted to say that, like, I think that, Brian can do it, and, there's all these members that they're listing, but the majority of the members that were showing up to everything are the ones that left. So how do we know that these other members that were left behind are gonna start faithfully showing up all of a sudden again?
Mm-hmm. That's a fair point. There's somebody named Sticky. Can you identify your full name?
Yes, apologies about that. My name is Mason Hampers. I'm on the Putney Fire Department. I've been here just a little over 7 months, and I'm a student at Landmark College. I'd just like to touch on a few quick things, if that's okay. One of them, which hasn't been addressed tonight, surprisingly, is the fact that more than half of the current active fire department that stayed after the mass walkouts last night consists of other students from Landmark College who will be leaving for summer break in less than 5 weeks, and less than half of those who are leaving for summer break will not be returning to Putney next August for the next school year. Half of your active firefighters are graduating. Okay. On top of that, if we do, for some unknown reason, which I'm fairly confident that I speak for most of the Landmark students when I say this, we all support the idea of shutting the fire department down, or at least putting the service on hold until we can have these discussions with the current interim chief. There's definitely some questions about the leadership that we do have in place and the qualifications of said leadership, and a lot of that goes hand in hand with the concerns about safety and all of those other things. And I think that before there's any response to any serious fire calls, that we do need to get the input and ask these questions.
Okay, thank you. Karen, did you get a...
He's taking care of roads right now, so he won't be in, but basically his message to the board is make a decision.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to make a motion. Okay.
And just make a decision.
Just make a decision, okay.
Yeah. I'm going to make a motion that we shut down the Putney Fire Department until further notice.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to shut down the Putney Fire Department until further notice. Is there further discussion among the board? Are there comments in the room? Are there comments online? Hearing none. Jeanette?
I will say that I think that when you get to the point of reopening and coming back, that there needs to be a lot more communication and a lot more interaction between you guys and the fire department, and a lot more respect shown.
Thank you. Heather, did you have?
I had a question, but I don't know if it holds any weight. I'm just curious about, until further notice, what is the cutoff for that? What needs to happen for you guys to flip that back?
A functioning plan that we can stand up a new fire department. Hold on one second. That's Morgan.
I just want to say, when you guys are ready to work on bridge building, I would love to help if you need any more support, because I think we have the potential for a really wonderful department.
Okay.
And we just need to kind of get back to the experience that we've had with it.
Okay. Rory?
I have one question. When you say shut down, are you talking about formally ending the entire service and firing everyone who is currently a member, or are you simply saying that we are going to suspend responses? We have a number of members who are currently in training and has been paid for and arranged through the town and through the service, including myself. And if the service were to totally dissolve, obviously I would no longer be able to, but and other people.
Service. Okay. Zachary, I'm going to ask you another question. I guess it's a logistical question. When the Vernon Fire Department got shut down, did it suspend service? Or did it fire everybody?
Every single member of the department was let go and they started from square one.
So was there training in process?
There was not training in process, but there was plans for training in process, and that training did move forward.
It did move forward?
It did.
Okay. Do we need to amend our motion to provide for training? I don't feel like we want to suspend that because we don't want people to, lose their certifications.
No, I think the training needs to stay, it's in the budget. I think, yeah.
Do we need to make a motion on that, or do we need just, is that the understanding?
No, I think it should be clear,
So suspend.
Can we make two motions?
Sure.
Let's make one motion and then make a motion about training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there another question in the room? Is there another question online? Mary?
I just wanted to say that, I don't think that people need to be suspended or let go. They just need to be able to come up with a plan to show the town that they can do it. That other thing seems too punitive, and it shouldn't be punitive.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. Are there any other comments? I'm sorry, what's your name again?
George.
Thank you.
I think they're right. I think if you should just suspend service, not do what Vernon did and fire everybody that's an active member and wants to participate. Suspending service sounds like a better, and then they can still do their weekly meetings and trainings.
Gentler term, okay. So you want to make a friendly,
I want a friendly amendment instead of.
Suspend service, the fire department, okay.
Just wanna ask that Karen gets on the phone now with Brian, so he can start making phone calls that nothing is, coming out of Putney, so now this.
Yep, some
whole
things are gonna
arrangement has to
happen right
change.
after we make this decision. So I have Daniel first.
Hi, Daniel Garcia Galili. I'm a current member of the fire department. I'm advanced EMT on the department. I just want to, again, sort of echo what a couple of other folks have said about the difference between suspending response and laying off the entire department. Suspending response leaves everybody in place to, in fact, continue doing training and working on becoming capable of the response that the town deserves. Whereas firing everybody means starting all of that from zero.
Okay.
I'd speak in favor of that idea.
Okay, thank you for that. Laura?
I'm just supporting the suspending idea as well. I think that's a good idea. I don't like the idea of firing everybody. I think that everybody is very devoted and we should support them and just regroup.
Okay. Sounds like your dog agrees. Okay. So are there any other comments in the room? Any other comments online? Further discussion among the board on the motion to suspend service the fire department until further notice. Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So, how much of this other discussion do we want to have right now? I feel like we just made a pretty big decision that may change the next two items.
The next two items.
The next two,
where are we?
Well, we were on the planning committee discussion, and I think that what you guys started is probably still where we want to keep going. But I think we've got some other
Right, I feel like we
concerns at this
basically
moment.
need two different committees,
Yeah.
it seems, in a way. I mean, part of me just feels like we need to stop the conversation tonight, that this has been a lot, that it's really hard, and that we just need to come back, table that conversation and come back to it.
Okay. What does other people feel?
I would agree with that.
Okay, so I think we're gonna table the rest of the committee discussion. I think I would like to table the unfinished business discussion as well.
I agree with
Neither
that.
of those need to happen tonight. If everybody's in agreement. So,
I'm in agreement.
okay, so then the next piece to our agenda is the select board reports, the draft light ordinance. Eric?
Nothing yet.
Okay. Draft sidewalk.
Nothing.
Cannabis control board?
Not nothing. We met, I believe, like on the 22nd or 25th or something like that. We gathered some data and we sent out some emails to other Vermont towns, basically asking resources to draft our own process and procedure. And then we're going to meet again on the 22nd? No. Yeah, I think the 22nd.
That's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
And it's Earth Day too,
It's
isn't
Earth
it?
Day. The whole Earth celebrates my birthday. That's what I tell myself. Okay, that sounds great. Rules of procedure for committees and commissions. I did also not do nothing. I wrote up, I think it made it into your packet actually. So what I did was I took our rules of procedures, stripped out some stuff that just didn't apply to boards, commissions, and committees. Added a couple of things, like I said, alternatively, the body may elect 2 co-chairs and 1 clerk instead of, because some of our committees like to do that. The process for a meeting remained largely the same. Agendas, I believe, remain the same because that's open meeting law. I added in the meetings section, because committees, well, I guess everyone at the moment, but I feel like advisory committees can work effectively remote only. I didn't want to extend that courtesy to statutory commissions and boards because I feel like that they're more, they need to be even more transparent in their doings, especially like the DRB, in their meetings. So I wanted them to be hybrid meetings as much as possible. And let's see, what else did I do? And I added a member attendance clause, which I used the number 4 meetings in a given appointment year because most committees meet monthly and that seemed like a lot of meetings to miss. And the rest of it I think is mostly the same. So if you guys want to look it over, comments, suggestions, strikeouts, and we can put it on the next agenda. I already got comments from Sue, and I got comments from Karen, so we'll put it on the next agenda to...
Sure. I really like your changes.
Okay, thanks. All right, so do we still want to go into executive session? We would be discussing Karen's contract, I believe.
Are we on a time constraint for that, or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, a little bit, because the contract has a 90-day clause in it. So the contract is up June 30th, right?
Correct.
Okay. So if we don't do it tonight, I think we really should do it next week, next meeting. I don't
Meeting
personally have
tomorrow, or?
next, no, not that meeting,
No.
next regular meeting.
No.
Right, we're meeting tomorrow. Yeah.
Sounds like a good plan though.
Okay, so we're gonna table the executive session for April 17th. April 17th. And therefore, is that okay? You're looking like you.
Well, no, that's fine. I just needed to make sure I had tomorrow's meeting on my calendar.
Oh, okay.
But I also feel like we should not wrap up tonight without some plan of next steps in this, what our role is in terms of the next steps for the fire department. Karen, you're going on vacation.
Friday.
Friday. How long are you going to be gone for?
2 weeks.
You will come back, won't you?
They'll come back. You are coming back.
You will come back,
Somebody told me I should take 30 days off if I could afford it.
I know.
So, that
We all
sounds
should.
like a plan.
I guess.
So, 1 week. I'll be back on the 15th.
Are you proposing a special meeting?
No, I am not proposing a special meeting because I don't think.
I don't know that I have the capacity to come up with next steps right now.
Okay, so the next step is that we will talk about next steps at our next meeting.
Okay.
How's that?
I
just want that to be on the agenda.
I think,
and I want to be clear to everybody that we didn't just suspend the fire service and say, oh, well, that's that. So it's on the agenda for the next meeting, yeah.
Yes, it is now. Okay. Any other thoughts before we move it along? All right, so the next meeting date is April 4th, 2024, tomorrow. That's a public hearing on, what's it for? I'm sorry, I forgot.
It's on a grant proposal. It's a Vermont Community Development Program planning grant, and it is due April 9th.
Okay.
And tomorrow is the last day that we can have a hearing that is required before, as one of the things you have to show in the application, the minutes of the meeting. So tomorrow there's posted for tomorrow, there's a couple of information things to help you see what this is about. There's basically a full application, which is a draft. And there'll be a few of us to speak in support of this, as probably also identifying some changes we know that need to be made to the draft. But they're not big. I just will speak to that a little bit, but we're very close to ready for that to be submitted on the 9th.
Okay, so it's a planning grant for the town hall.
For the town hall renovation.
All right.
That's right.
So if anybody's interested about the town hall renovation or has questions or concerns about this grant application, tomorrow is your time. It's
5:30.
5:30 here and on Zoom, right?
That's right.
We have
Yes.
And
the materials are on the website. The agenda is under Selectboard agendas, and the supporting materials are under documents.
Okay. All right. So that's that's the first meeting we're having. That's the public hearing, and then April 17th, 2024 is our regular meeting at 5:30. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?